books are a fantastic tool to manage all kinds of emotions. And that if you can get children into books early as a mechanism to help them manage through life and all that life throws at them, then I think that hopefully is the takeaway.
Welcome to the award-winning Authors Show, where we guide professionals in crafting a lasting legacy through the art of self-publishing. We help you remove self-doubt from your mind with our proven process to become a published author. We have helped authors all over the world to publish their books since 2002. I'm your host, Lisa Umina, CEO of Halo Publishing International. If you're ready to become an award-winning author, let's get started. We have an exciting guest with us today, Pinky Jean, author of Stinky Toes, and we'll talk about the series she's putting together. Pinky, thank you so much for joining us. Let's spend some time together and let our listeners know about these beautiful stories you want to share, why they're so important, and how it's going to help families. Let's just start with that. To talk a little bit about the first story that you've published with Halo.
Well, thanks for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate being able to sit down and have the conversation. The stories had an amazing origin in the sense that I was privileged to have a granddaughter born to me a little while ago, and I also am able to spend some time with her since they are close by. So just enjoyed every minute being with her and understanding that, this time around, it's different because that you're not the mom, so you take on a different role. And with that, you actually get to experience your child again, but in a new and different way, and really being able to cherish those moments even more. And so as we were interacting together, there were some really cute moments, there were some funny moments. I just started writing them down because I didn't want to forget, and 20 years from now, I would love to be able to look back at my notes and be able to remember that and sit with my grandchild and be able to reminisce as well. So I started writing these down, and then what emerged from that was actually rhymes and stories that had, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the thread that came out of that was actually emotions, managing emotions. There was always something, of an emotion. The first book, Stinky Toes, was the not wanting to get into bath. Bath time was just really challenging sometimes. And, how do you work past that emotion? And I started to bring her books about different things. And when she was having an emotion, we would sit down and read a book. And it really just helped. You had that loving kind of one-on-one contact. So somebody who's really acknowledging that you're having a big feeling. And a book that kind of gets you, laughing and thinking past that emotion, and then being able to just have that closeness with a grandparent and being able to manage that. And so I actually sat down and wrote the story, and then they just started coming out one after another. So I wound up writing 5 books in 2 weeks of just it just flowed.
Don't make it seem so easy. Please don't make it seem so
Well, it wasn't, because I was thinking about it for about a year,
Okay, right. Okay.
And I was just jotting some things down and whatever, and then it just came together. There was just that magic moment where I thought, oh, this could be really cute, spun this way and messaged this way to her. And it was all really about my grandchild and having a legacy of our time together long after I left the earth. And so then I just started writing all these stories for her, and each one had an emotion to it, because let's face it, we share emotions all day long. And that's who we are as human beings. And to create these books to help her also understand about emotions, and then help other kids understand that emotions are what drive us as human beings, and how we manage those is really the key to having a good life.
Absolutely. I think too, I'm not just saying this because I'm an author and I'm a publisher, but just because we're in this digital world right now and this lack of intimacy. So one, the challenge, right, is to be that grandparent, that consistency, that intimacy that you can have with your grandchildren. One. Two, when it comes to putting these stories together, I'm going to tell you, it's not easy to rhyme a story. One thing is to have a concept, which I loved. Here you have a concept, but then I always, and I feel this too, even with my books, I like the takeaway. It's not just another, I always say the Jack and Jill, went up a hill kind of story. That these are really good stories that any parent, whether it's the parent or grandparent or someone babysit, whatever that is, whatever role that is, when they're with a child that is, having a hard time with anything in life, that they have tools that they can use to say, okay, connecting the bath connects to story time. So maybe this will be easier going into a bath the next time instead of, it's time to take a bath, you're dirty, because they don't get that and they don't want to. And then they want to bring all their toys in there and, it's just not going to happen. So I saw that from you from day one. It just, that was your passion, was this intimate relationship that you have with your granddaughter, which I think is amazing. And if you can reflect that in your writing, and that when someone buys the book, they're like, wow, also have other problems in the house, whether it's doing another chore, another thing, or another getting ready, that I can use Pinky's way of saying, okay, I'm going to connect it to something intimate, or I'm going to connect it to a one-on-one time. And I have to tell you, through that whole process, when you came up with the title, Stinky Toes, I have to ask you, so when you're reading the story, do you go, Stinky Toes, stinky? Like I remember my parents when we were reading when they take our socks off, they would say, "Oh, stinky toes," or "this little piggy
Yeah.
to the market," kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when you read this story, how did that feel the first time bringing that story to life after you've written it and now it's in a book format?
Right. And I actually just read it to my grandchild a couple weeks ago. And she was so fascinated by the fact that the characters she knew who the characters were because we had a little bit of a resemblance to that. The illustrator, Bonnie Lemire, was amazing and really be able to bring that to life. And I read it to her, and every time she takes off her socks, she sticks her foot up to my nose, and I have to say, "Oh, PU, stinky toes."
Right,
It's
you.
it's just part of our wiring now. It's just something she expects. And I'll tell you, all through my life with kids that I've been exposed to, they all like to play that stinky toes,
I remember
pretending
too.
they stink. It's just an interaction that, you know, is a laugh between two people.
Absolutely.
And quite frankly, the quickest way to connect with somebody is through a laugh.
Laughter. Now, let's tell our listeners this. So after you wrote the story, you published the story, you read the story. Is it easy for you to have bath time with her?
Oh yeah, because that's the book she
Write a
wants.
book. So
Yeah,
is that how you're planning? Let's tell everyone. So you're putting a series together. You're just making a
yeah.
list like how to get through this part, use this. No. So talk to us a little bit about, because you're
Yeah.
working with Bonnie right now in your second book. What's this next message about?
So the second book is called Squiggle and Squirm. And it's about when you're trying to settle down for bedtime and your body's just busy and you're wired from the day and you don't want to lay down because you're having so much fun, or you just don't want to lay down because there's kids who just don't like to, settle in and go to
There's
sleep.
not a kid in the world that likes to go to bed, right?
No, exactly. Sometimes even as adults, we have a hard time. Our
Right,
bodies
right.
are electric and wired from our day, and how do we wind down? And so that's the second book of how to wind down and how to get rid of that last burst of energy, so that you can then go to sleep and have a restful night. So that one is being illustrated now, and it should be out in the spring, March or April timeframe, depending on schedules. And so that's the emotion, right? Squiggle and squirm, can't relax. And the third one that's coming out is going to be Rainy Day,
Okay,
and that's about boredom.
okay,
What do you do
good.
with kids? I can remember as a child, I would sit at the kitchen table and my mom would be doing something in the kitchen. I'd say, "Mom, I'm bored. What can I do?" And she'd give me a list of, 20 or 30 things off the top. And no, no, no.
Right,
Because when you're bored, you don't want ideas. You just want someone to know you're bored, uh, and just acknowledge the emotion.
exactly.
Which so we acknowledge that, and you wind up playing a game in the laundry basket of giving rides and pretending you're going places and whatever. And so that is going to be the third book about that. And the other two that I've written that hopefully I'll be working with you all on following, are about a visit from a favorite aunt, and those types of things. So it's all about excitement would be the visit of somebody coming over, So,
Just an idea, because I mean, you just said you could write this thing in a week, but you're tapping on some really good emotions. And what about anxiety? I think one of the things
yeah,
that I hear a lot is that first day of school.
yes.
So these are just things like, and this is what I
Hmm.
love about a series author is that you're testing the market as you're writing. I remember when even with my books, what works, what's needed. And I try to fulfill a need that was in the school when I wrote books about giving back to people in need because I knew all the Christian schools were doing some kind of donation program. So hey, as writers, we can make it work. But it's an idea then too, because that's another big emotion is anxiety. And especially coming out of COVID, I see a lot of these children right now, depression, you talk about boredom, anxiety, so just
Hmm.
fitting in, uh, another routine. Routines are really very important, by the way, that parents and grandparents do have a routine. I think that's what children like, even though they fight it. So great. I think it's a great journey that you're going on. I also be a little bit more open to, right? Just listening to other parents after they're reading the
Yeah.
books and feedback and their 5-star reviews on Amazon that people are giving you. It's just to say to them, what did you like about the book? Do you see anything just as a parent or as a grandparent that you feel is important? And just taking those notes.
Yeah.
It's a void that you're filling as a writer. It's like that's what we want. We don't want to write books that are already out there. We want to be unique. We have a unique way of handling things. Because for me, I was thinking the same thing when you wrote the first book. I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. Because I had twin brothers. I'm like, wow, that could have been a lot easier with them. Just reading a story while they're playing in the bathtub together and fighting and getting water in their eyes and bubble baths. So you name it, right? So for me, I love that you did that, and you took a really nice correlation of it, just the intimacy and that one-on-one time that I know your granddaughter cannot wait to be with you. Hey, normally I ask you this, and you've already answered. I say, when's the next book? Is there more grandchildren coming?
I don't know. I absolutely don't know.
You don't know.
But I'm leaving room for that in case there would be at some point. It would certainly be
Yeah,
wonderful, but
right.
I'm so lucky.
Talk to your daughter and say, you know what? I've got 5-book series. It's going to happen. I've got to inject this other grandchild of mine. It has to. No pressure. They always hate that when
That's
you
right.
say,
Make the
when's the next
pitch.
book
Make the
coming?
pitch.
Hey, no pressure, no pressure. So we talked about it lightly. The reading your first book. What is it that you want parents? What's the takeaway? What is the message you think? Okay, this is what I want you to get from my book.
So I really think it's just that, as a parent, and oftentimes you're working parents or you're, non-working parents, but parenting in general is just hard. It's constant, it's hard. Most of us don't know what we're doing. Even when you have, 5 or 6 kids, every child is so unique and different and beautiful and wonderful. It's like you're learning all over again how to help them grow through life and how to help them learn who they are and how to manage their emotions because they're all going to be different. And so I'm hoping that they take away that they have a tool to use, that books are a fantastic tool to manage all kinds of emotions,
Absolutely.
and that if you can get children into books early as a mechanism to help them manage through life and all that life throws at them, then I think that hopefully is the takeaway. And that to take it a little lighter. You're just so stressed all day long or at night when you come home and you've got a bath time that's not going well or whatever, and you have your own anxiety as a parent with that because you want so much to get through the day, but you also want to get through the day in a really loving way. And sometimes you don't have the mind share or the mental capacity to do that. So hopefully there's some tools here to say, oh, I know, I can go get that Stinky Toes book and we can play Stinky Toes and make it fun and make it a game and read and get past this point. So it's really just that I hope they take away. That here's some things you can do that
Exactly.
also just make it fun and help you to get through that and get past it so that you can then have those snuggles and enjoy and really have that close time that's just so meaningful.
I think too, with parents working, what might come natural for you might not come natural for another parent. And we use the word intimacy, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things tie in with that, but for me, is that one-on-one time, and I can definitely say this, and I'm in a restaurant and I see parents handing over an iPad. Part of it is, I understand they want that one-on-one time finally, because they're working all day, but then it's just, that disconnect. And
Yeah.
and for me, it's just some people, I'll tell you a good example, and I know maybe you did this when you were younger, but I just recently babysat one of my nephews, and I said, go get all the covers. We're going to make a fort out of
Oh,
the dining room, right? We grew
love
up
it.
like this, like the imagination. You're like, aren't you doing this? Like, oh, and I said, okay, now get a flashlight. Let's get some snacks, bring some books.
Yep.
Then like, and the mom turned to me. She's like, I don't know if it's just because I wouldn't know how to do that, or that's just your personality. But I'll
Mhm.
tell you, after you came here, I made four of those already. But you see my point. And as a
Yeah.
writer, I think that's what you're showing your readers, is that look what I did. And I never thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, right. Why aren't you sitting next to them in the bathtub? And the water's supposed to be soothing as it is, right? But then that extra dose that you've done, that I
Hmm.
think is just amazing. And that's what I'm saying. I think we take for granted, like we think, oh, everyone should know how to do this because it comes natural for me, but it doesn't. So it's
Yeah.
just those voids that you're filling, to showing parents or any caretaker how to connect with children, right? I think that's the goal, and that's the takeaway of what you're trying to orchestrate here through your series.
Yeah, we all have different experiences and we can
Yeah,
all learn from one another, whether we had that in our own upbringing or whether we didn't have that
right.
closeness and have
Exactly.
those ideas, but collectively coming together to share that so that we can pick and choose some things that work for us and our kids to help get through the day is incredible.
Exactly.
It takes a village.
It definitely, no, it definitely does. So, another note, the behind the scenes note, right? On the behind the scenes, right? So through the whole process, I know you put the stories together, and then you're like, oh goodness, now what? And then I know Natalie, I'll say Natalie, thank you, Natalie, connected
Yes, thank you,
us.
Natalie.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Natalie. Connected us, which I think was amazing. I love referrals. It just, it's a
Yeah,
5-star out there that says, hey, she'll take care of you. And I hope we did.
we did.
But we continue to do that. But in the challenges, like even, with the editing part to the illustrations, or the fun parts, or the parts maybe that, you want to share, like, hey, I never thought this would happen in the process. Like, do you want to share some of the behind scene things with the
Sure.
listeners?
Well, and I have never even thought about publishing a book before. I loved writing. I always loved writing, but those were work assignments or school
Yeah,
assignments or whatever. And so it had a purpose, it had a beginning, middle, and end, and then you were done, you moved on. And so with this, I had no idea what to expect. But, from my first call with you and just listening to you and listening to your experiences and the talent and that you bring together to help an author be able to bring it to life was from the beginning call all the way to when I held the book, that when it was first shipped and I opened that first box, I I thought, I cannot believe this actually happened. And here's Lisa and her team who know how to do that. So I didn't have to go out and find my own illustrator, my own editor, copywriting, the people who are going to produce it, people who are going to distribute it. I would have lost this dream in the muck and mire of the chaos of the publishing world. I will
and
tell you that right
not that
now.
easy, and it's not that easy. And I'm not saying my job, your job, is because it's all new to you from the
Yeah,
moment you see a sketch of something that's coming to life, that's really a part of your life, that you're really, the bathtub scene is really happening, and now
yeah,
it's coming to color, and it's all happening. And that's why, I don't want to take for granted that I've passed that so many times in my own career, but just to hear it, just to go back to those moments, it's amazing. So for me,
yeah.
I'm happy. I'm excited about these next books in the series. Beautiful conversation today. Thank you so much. I'm hoping every listener out there puts a stop to their day and says, okay, when I go home, I learned something today listening to this podcast. I need to spend some intimate time with my children, my grandchildren, cousins, nieces, whoever it is out there, taking care of each other. Like Pinky said, it takes a tribe. But it definitely takes that time, that one-on-one time, to make those everlasting moments. Where can we find this book for the holidays? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, Books A Million. Pinky Jeans, Stinky Toes. Get your copy today, and don't forget to go back to Amazon and put that 5-star review, because Pinky deserves it. It's an amazing story. And stay tuned for more, because there's more books coming out. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're ready to publish your book, please submit your manuscript on halopublishing.com, or you can download our free publishing guide to learn everything you need to know about the entire self-publishing process. Start writing your legacy today.